Sure, we just don't want to box if it's going to skirt around us.
Yeah. That's an impossible call to make, isn't it? How do you know until it's here whether it's skirting around us or not?
Like what Lando's saying is that do not leave me to do 3/4 of a lap tiptoeing around. Anticipate it and we'll handle it. Don't. It's a lot easier to handle a track that's a touch too dry for half a lap on inters than it is a track that's much too wet on slicks.
Ted, let's head down to you in the pit lane.
Well, the huge cloud that you can see, I think, Crofty, out of your commentary box window is actually just passing over the pit building at the moment. It's not dropping a load of rain on us just yet, but I don't know whether that's the one they were talking about. Will Joseph talking about coming in a few laps' time. I think he's looking at the radar there, but we will see. Otherwise, everybody's still circulating around the two Saubers, 12th and 13th. Pierre Gasly, P9, now unchallenged from Fernando Alonso. So Alonso was in the points, by the way. He was running P10. That's now been taken by Kimi Antonelli. But they say, Crofty, that you have 4 seasons in one day here in Melbourne. Well, they've all been horrible so far, those seasons.
I said earlier, 4 seasons in one day. Welcome to winter. It's Karun to you, mate.
Tell you who's gambled. Haas stayed with intermediate tyres for both cars. So despite the track drying up, they have decided to stick with it. And if those 2 laps of rain come, because Ferrari think it's going to be 2 laps, not the one that Will Joseph has just told Lando Norris. So that could put Haas in a decent position. And it is, let's keep an eye on that, because this part of the track right now is quite dry.
Yeah.
We know why we're doing this, but I think if it doesn't rain in a couple of laps, they will be quicker than us with slicks.
Yeah. And
Understood.
Then you'll pit, but the hope is that you've actually made up a lot of places, because that lap 45 estimate, bring that down to about lap 42, 43, because these laps behind the safety car are that much slower than we would get at racing speed. They're about a minute slower.
Yeah, but there's a low confidence in the forecast, isn't it? And we're coastal too, aren't we? So it's anybody's guess. The golden rule: be on the right tyre at the right time, and intermediates are not the right tyre right now, unless it rains now.
The thing is, if you're Haas, you're right at the back.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it really doesn't. And I'm looking at the commentary box, just to our left, along the main straight. I wouldn't be putting my trunks on to go for a swim in the water. Put it that way. I have to say, Martin, I'm kind of with you. There's been lorries and people standing by the side of the track in greasy, damp, slippery conditions where drivers have been sliding off without any warning at all. And I don't understand why we're still going around. No one wants to see races get red flag. We had 3 of them, didn't we, here in 2023? But you've got to put safety first on this one. And you haven't got the cranes, and we haven't here because there just isn't the room to put the cranes in by the side of the track. Then you've got to think about red flagging, I think.
So they'll let those lap cars through there, and is that just going to skirt around the track rather than across it?
Well, that's already big.
Yeah, I think. They will let the lap cars, or they should let the lap cars through, and then we will have Norris, Piastri and Verstappen nose to tail.
Karun Chandok, what are you looking at? Monitors, timing screens, clouds?
All of the above. I've got a better view of the clouds from the angle of race control in the commentary box. Brian Botsy's just told Charles Leclerc it looks like it might skirt around the south of the circuit and might only be a few drops in Sector 3. So Sector 3 is where, around turn 11, 12 is where we think it's going to hit first. So let's keep an eye on that.
Okay, we are clear of the wreckage of Fernando Alonso's crash. Just coming up at 5:30 in the morning in the UK. If you're just waking up and joining us for the opening race of this 2025 Formula One season, it's been eventful even before the lights went out. We lost Isaac Hadjar on the formation lap. We lost Jack Doohan once we got racing. We lost Carlos Sainz behind the safety car when it first came out. And we're out behind the safety car again because we lost Fernando Alonso.
Lando, weather update. rain that was skirting around the track might actually come over the track. If it does, it would last longer than the one lap we said earlier and potentially arrive earlier.
So then it's better to go for the Inter now, no?
Because if you went for the Inter now, you'd be right at the back, because we're now letting lap cars overtake the safety car.
I still think they should make the lap cars drop to the back and get on with it.
I'm with you. Lando Norris started on pole and he's led this race. And he survived one start and a restart, and now another one coming.
Lando, we do not want to fit the wrong tyre before the conditions.
Especially with the pack all behind you, that's an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah, because you'd have to come in again to get rid of those Inters because the rain wouldn't last that long. He's got his teammate Oscar Piastri right behind him. This is another little kerfuffle here as Norris locks up behind the safety car, and then he's got the Haas of Esteban Ocon who's trying to unlap himself.
Yeah, we'll get a bit of vibration from that, but it was low speed and he got off the brakes very quickly, but it's not optimum.
Right, unsafe release has been noted. Gabriel Bortoletto into the path of Liam Lawson. What are they doing down at Haas? Ollie Behrman, who had got the intermediates on, has now got the medium compound tyre on. So they don't think that the rain is going to be heavy enough to warrant those intermediate tyres. And Esteban Ocon also came in to change those tyres. And Ollie Behrman, who's unlapped himself once, is going to have to go and do it all over again. Ted, to you.
I don't think so. I think...
Yeah, see?
Max will love all that, but I don't think they'll let him through because you let through if you were a lap car at a certain point, and clearly Behrman wasn't. Safety car is in this lap, and but Max will be massively underwhelmed by that.
But he's going to have to get himself on lap because
no, he can't.
Yeah, but he's in the middle of the battle for the top three, and the whole reason we have this rule is to get the back markers out of the way and to stop interfering at a restart with the battle out in front.
I know, but he's become lap because he did something else.
Yes, I agree.
So the point where they decide who can unlap themselves has long gone. So he's just come out in that position, and Max is going to be massively impressed with that.
Well, that could have taken Max Verstappen out of the race if he'd have got the waggle on Ollie Behrman and gone into the Red Bull. And he is unlapping himself, so he has been told to get out of the way, which is what we really want to see for better racing. But like yourself, why they can't just drop back through the field, the back markers in this, I'm not sure. And it used to be because of the FIA timing screens, which haven't changed in 20 years I've been commentating.
So, I don't think we've seen that situation before, to be honest, but he was one of the four who was told, Behrman, he was one of the four numbers who was told to unlap himself, but that was earlier on.
Exactly.
But, anyway, they've sorted it out. I'd imagine race director got on the blower and were like, get him out of there.
Yeah, please. Right, here we go again then. Norris, Piastri, Verstappen. Verstappen got past Piastri and then got overtaken again when his tyres went off. He's on the medium tyre. They should warm up quicker than the hard compound tyre. Greasy conditions. We're now on slick tyres and we're racing to the checkered flag once again. Lando Norris has done very well here to put a big gap between himself and Oscar Piastri. Verstappen is coming at the Australian. Then comes George Russell and Charles Leclerc. Yuki Tsunoda on the mediums, as is Alex Albon. Hamilton in 8th ahead of Gasly, and Antonelli on his debut for Mercedes, who's up into the points after Alonso's crash.
No DRS.
In 3 laps, class 3 rain expected.
This is
lasting for 2 laps.
Wow.
Class 3 is a lot.
Yes, this is what we see for the Raider, but we'll have to wait for it.
This is going to be wild. Do not go anywhere. Lando confident out front, building a little bit of a gap. 4 minutes, we're expecting the rain, according to the screen there. And, this is going to be very challenging for the drivers.
Certainly is. Alex Albon getting very interested with Yuki Tsunoda into turn 3, stays behind the Racing Bulls. Norris charging out in front. Piastri is starting to drop Verstappen just a little bit too, and George Russell is way back, detached in 4th place from Lando Norris, who leads this race. And then there's a whole gaggle of cars. Hamilton holding off Gasly, holding off Antonelli, who we've seen pulling in a couple of overtakes on Nico Hülkenberg so far in this race.
And once again, it's McLaren McLaren that have got the problem with 2 cars line astern and the stacking in the pits that Red Bull have not got.
DRS is now enabled, so when they go through the first detection zone, Max Verstappen will want to be a second at least behind Oscar Piastri. Albon on Tsunoda, can't make the move. Going into turn 1, Kimi Antonelli trying to stick to the back of Pierre Gasly in the Alpine in these early stages after the restarts. They're all behaving themselves currently. Tsunoda, though, under a lot of pressure from a very fast Williams. And Tsunoda holding Alex Albon off well.
Seems like it'll be next lap now.
We don't want to jump too early. Class half in pit lane.
Love that. All the computing power in the world, and Zach Brown's turned to the upturned palm to see if it's raining.
Class half, it's raining a little bit in the pit lane. Ted's down there.
And the wind has really picked up in the way, Martin, that it does before it rains. The gust front, they call it in the meteo world. But yeah, it's freezing down here.
Rain could get
They've just got to survive, haven't they? If it's going to red flag, intense enough to red flag, but you've got to survive. You can't stay out there on the slicks. You've got to go to one of the 2 rain tyres. I think the inter or full wet.
And it's going to make a big difference exactly where you are on the track when the rain hits. How far you are away from the pit lane, in other words.
5-second time penalty. Gabriel Bortoletto for an unsafe release. He's down in 13th. George Russell goes over the line. Behind him, Charles Leclerc. Now behind Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda up into 5th place. Leclerc has had a moment on this lap, and he's now under pressure from Alex Albon, with Lewis Hamilton behind him, pulling out in towards turn 3 as Tsunoda locks up. Leclerc was going for a move. Albon almost goes into the back of Charles Leclerc, and Hamilton is waiting to see if he can pounce and take an opportunity.
Fantastic pace from Norris out front.
So we're forecasting that we won't be able to stay out on dry tyres. It will be heavy enough for Inter.
But if someone takes a gamble and does stay out, and if they survive, well, then they might just have an opportunity when others pit to move themselves back up the order. It's like that opening lap at Zandvoort a couple of years ago, as Tsunoda under pressure once again from Charles Leclerc, desperate to try and get past the Racing Bull, but there's no way through at turn 10. Out in front, nearly 2 seconds the gap between Norris and Piastri. Here goes Charles Leclerc down the inside. Tsunoda's seen that coming a mile off and going out to the gravel. And Lando Norris stays in the lead. Oscar Piastri comes back on in second and slides off into the grass. Verstappen takes second place, and Oscar Piastri, spinning his rear wheels, could be out of his home Grand Prix. It's treacherously wet down in that final sector, and he's come a cropper. Oscar Piastri could be out. Verstappen now leads as Lando Norris pits. Russell pits. Hamilton goes through. Gasly goes through, and they manage to get Lando Norris out.
Piastri needs to put it in reverse, try and use it as a front-wheel drive car, reverse out of there. But if the underfloor is on the grass and taking all the weight of the car, he's managed to get it moving, we're hearing.
So he's reversing. He's done exactly what you suggested he needed to do. That is heartbreak for Oscar Piastri. The rain came and it caught him by surprise. He's gingerly going backwards to try and now find a bit of tarmac to get back in this race. Verstappen, still on the mediums, leads this race on the dry tyres, but the next time he comes around to the final sector, he's going to know just how slippy it is. The rain was coming, we didn't know when it was going to hit, and for McLaren it hit at just the wrong time. Oscar Piastri will get a huge roar. If he can get going, you can hear the roar in Albert Park. He has, but his race has been ruined.
Look how wet it is now. Max was smart there to just keep going, but will he have to tiptoe too much round to the pit lane, Verstappen? But what happened, unfortunately for Norris, he's out behind Verstappen's teammate, so they're telling him to stay out, saying stay out, try and live with it if the rain doesn't come any harder.
Well, that's the gamble, and McLaren have kind of made it easy for Verstappen to take that gamble. Piastri's got the intermediates on, and he's back out in the race, because all the time that they can make up, well, they're going to probably have to go back to slicks at some stage. Piastri comes out behind Charles Leclerc, but he is a lap down. And Lando Norris, who was leading this race, is now in 6th on the intermediate tyres, trying to make up time and get back up to the sharp end again. Here comes Piastri. You've got to feel for him, because there was nothing he could do to stay on the track.
Looks like the rain is coming here now. We need to make a decision.
Understood, Max. We will let you know.
Verstappen's lead over Lewis Hamilton is 9 seconds. Hamilton is up in a second. Gasly is up in the third. Gasly in the rain in Sao Paulo finished third that day in the race that Max Verstappen won, of course, from 17th on the grid. Tsunoda moves up into 4th, Leclerc in 5th. They're all on slick tyres, and this is how treacherous it is, Martin, at turn 11.
No, is there? I mean, he's tiptoeing around, but there's no rain on...
Oh, there is.
There is rain, yeah. Okay, so he's got to come in. He's got to pit.
Stay out, they say.
Wow.
Got to pit, but they're saying stay out. Ted Kravitz.
They're not. They've changed that. That's an old radio message. He's coming in. The intermediate tyres are out in the Red Bull pit lane for Max Verstappen. It's chucking it down now.
So how much time did Verstappen lose on that lap? We'll find out when he feeds back in. Will he be ahead of the McLaren? No, he won't.
No, he won't. Lando is now coming round turn 14, Martin. Lewis Hamilton will move into the lead on his debut for Ferrari. Hamilton stays on the slick tyre. Leclerc stays on the slick. Norris on the intermediates goes through. Tsunoda on the mediums goes through. There they are. Verstappen will come out in 5th ahead of George Russell in the Mercedes, who's on the intermediate tyres. Gasly's dropping down the order because he's pitting. Stroll moves up in the top 9. Lawson's now in the points because he stayed on the dry tyres.
This is the wettest part.
Bortolotto.
You are leading the race.
Yes, very slippy, mate.
Bortolotto's...
Me down.
Sorry.
Yeah, Bortoletto's gone into the barriers, as has Liam Lawson.
Broken
Lawson
rear wing.
at turn 2, Bortoletto at turn 13, and they have both come to a standstill. Lando Norris back in the lead of this race. He's got past Lewis Hamilton on the intermediate tyres. He's now right behind his teammate. Oscar Piastri, who of course has been lapped. Lewis Hamilton could make, I was going to say, could he make a cheap pit stop? But he won't, Martin, not behind the safety car.
No, he'll go right to...
but I tell you what, by staying out and taking the gamble, Ferrari have absolutely aced a possibility of a double podium here.
Have they?
Well,
they're gonna go to the back of a pack, aren't they, when they pit, because others have already got the inters on.
Yeah, but do they need to pit? Behind the safety car, do they need to pit?
This is where they suddenly came across 3 corners from home, and they both went off the road. Lando hoovered it up. Oscar had gone further off the road, and that's what put him in that position. And this is the bit where he tried to go forward initially. Yeah. So they both hit the rain shower at the same time. Just a different angle they turned up in the penultimate corner.
Ferrari are in the pit lane. Maybe it is just too wet for Hamilton and Leclerc to stay out. It's Leclerc behind Tsunoda when they were racing, and that is how Leclerc lost those places. Was spun around. Hamilton's into the pits. Verstappen takes over in second, Russell third. So it's intermediate tyres on now for Lewis Hamilton. He is going to go to the back of the pack.
It's a horrible loss because the crocodile behind the safety car was... that's a gamble that has not worked for Ferrari at this part of the Grand Prix anyway.
But the trouble is they've taken the gamble. Hamilton was on the radio saying too dangerous to stay out on these tyres. But once you've taken the gamble, Martin, you are effectively admitting defeat and waving the white flag if you then come into the pits.
But I don't think they could keep it on the road, could they? So we've got a Mercedes third and another one in 5th place. Kimi Antonelli, Alex Albon for Williams in 4th. But, well, it was always going to be wild, that bit, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was. And the rain just hit at exactly the wrong time. But do you know what? Through all the wild stuff, Lando Norris still leads this race. And his teammate Oscar Piastri continues the... is it a curse for Australian drivers at their home Grand Prix? Getting that way.
Yeah, I know. And their hearts will be totally sunk in the Piastri camp because, you know, it's clearly going to be a fight for the championship, isn't it? And But we've still got to get to the end of the race.
We certainly have. Antonelli up to 5th then. Lance Stroll, who by the way scored his best results of the season in the last 2 years here, is up to 6th. Hulkenberg up to 7th. Here's his teammate Gabriel Bortoletto. That's how he lost it.
Yeah, it's the same. It's sort of the rookie spin, isn't it? It's light the back up. You get a torque. You get some torque, and it anti-locks. That actually, hang on a minute.
Did that right rear come
Did that
loose
break?
before? Yeah.
Did that break and send him off? Has he had a... You'd have to say that actually... that's exactly what happened to Hadjar, isn't it?
It is.
Before the start. Exactly what happened to him.
I tell you what, he very nearly collected Nico Hulkenberg there as well. Did Liam Lawson. We've lost Doohan, we lost Hadjar, we've lost Bortoletto, and we've lost Lawson. We've only got Ollie Behrman and Kimi Antonelli as the rookies still going here, and Carlos Sainz also out. This is Lewis Hamilton on the dry tyres. He sees Yuki Tsunoda going off and then goes very deep himself. And that was the lap before he came into the pits.
They rolled the dice, but they're right at the back of the Crocodile. Unfortunately, at the moment, the two forever. They've got Tsunoda behind them.
Let's hear some team radio.
So he said it wasn't going to rain much. Just missed a big opportunity there.
Understood.
What position am I now? Back in
P9.
9 again.
Ted, down to you.
Yeah, so worst of both worlds for Ferrari, and if it is to make it even worse, when Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc head to turn 1, above your commentary box, there's blue sky, Crofty. If they could have just survived on those dry tyres under the safety car, they should have. I think they should have stayed out. I mean, Leclerc's obviously frightened that he's going to have another spin.
Well, we're seeing a replay of it now, Ted.
I absolutely agree with you, Crofty.
There was a bit of contact, and then he saw the Alpine get squirmy, and then is that Tsunoda coming back at Charles Leclerc?
For what it's worth, Tsunoda came in as well. Tsunoda did exactly the same thing.
Yeah, but
tried to stick it out, and then came in for Inters, having been off, of course, himself.
In my mind, Martin, I know that's treacherous, yeah? And I know it's difficult, but these are the best drivers in the world. There you see Oscar Piastri on his intermediate tyres then getting past Leclerc. But once you've made that decision, you've got to think of the long game. And is the long game there?
Well, you've got to keep it on the track, haven't you? Because
Yeah.
you go slower and slower, get less and less tyre temperature, go slower again, and in the end, you just skate off the road at ridiculously small speeds.
But we're getting to the end of a race. We've got 8 laps to go here. You're going to be behind the safety car for 4 or 5 laps while the track dries out and the rain that you know isn't lasting long has moved away. I know it's hindsight, but
Got to be on the right tyre at the right time.
correct.
With a 19-second pit stop, it's just not worth. It wasn't worth the gamble, I don't think.
Yeah.
But I don't think they'd have kept it on the track, Crofty. And then on the restart would have been horrific. They were on those tyres, absolutely horrific.
I suppose that's their problem. They weren't on the right tyre at the right time and then compounded it by then switching to the right tyre at the wrong time in terms of trying to get something out of this. Leclerc's down in 10th. Hamilton is in 9th. Verstappen, once again, right up there behind Lando Norris. The thing this time, there's no Oscar Piastri.
No wingman is there
No
for him.
wingman. Kimi Antonelli, 5th at the moment. Alex Albon currently 4th for Williams, being on the right tyre at the right time. He's had a solid race, has Alex Albon, it has to be said. Nico Hulkenberg about to score big points for a Sauber team that came into this race not thinking that points were necessarily going to be theirs. Gasly in 8th, then ahead of the Ferraris of Hamilton and Leclerc. And are we thinking it's going to be intermediate tyres to the end of this race? Or is that dry line going to appear? And is it wet all the way around the track?
They won't pit now. They won't need to pit now. It's a straight fight, isn't it? Surely to the you wouldn't want to risk a pit stop, I don't think, in there unless it's much you. I can see some blue sky out there now. But you know, safety car is not showing us in this lap, is it? It might still do that yet, but
I think probably at least a lap.
It's too late, isn't it? So you know, there's only going to be 6 laps left. There'll be the Inters will go that far.
Driver of the day, and I'm sure lots of people are voting. And bar this excursion into the gravel, Lando Norris has had the race in control, and his teammate has just been waiting there with him, and McLaren were thinking there's a 1-2 coming, but it's never over till it's over. And that 50th 1-2 finish will have to wait for another day, and that's how Charles Leclerc dropped it on the hard tyre. And this is the bit where,
Cause or effect?
Backwards. Yeah, the car was going backwards and the wheels trying to go forwards.
No, but I don't know. I don't know if it was cause or effect, the rear suspension braking.
Right, so here we go. Safety car is coming in at the end of this lap as we see Liam Lawson hitting the barriers. Everyone is now on the lead lap, and Oscar Piastri has gone from 2nd to 13th, but he is right at the tail here.
He can nick some points from there, can't he, Oscar Piastri? Right, here we go. 6-lap shootout.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a sprint race. They're the rookie drivers for today, and they'll come back all the better for the experience, I'm sure. Isaac Hadjar, Jack Doohan, Gabriel Bortoletto and Liam Lawson, who had a 5-second penalty for an unsafe release, which might just carry now forward to China because he's out of this race. Ollie Behrman still running, and behind Oscar Piastri, and Kimi Antonelli, I think he's going to get rookie of the day. There's no doubting that one. Currently in 5th place, very much enjoying himself. And Alex Albon separating him and his Mercedes teammate George Russell. So as Bernd Maylander scampers off once again, here we go. Max Verstappen sticking as close as he can to the back of Lando Norris's McLaren. He can't overtake before the line. And I would imagine, given how wet and greasy it must be there, Lando will want to get round this final corner before he absolutely floors it, and that is exactly what he has done. While he's putting his foot down, Max Verstappen behind him is navigating the final turn, and Norris has got them underway, and we're racing to the checkered flag. Norris into turn 1, ahead of Verstappen, ahead of Russell. Then comes Alex Albon. Oh, and that looked tricky.
Norris has been very good on the restarts in terms of picking up his pace quickly, and there then is George Russell fancying a look at the back of the Red Bull of Max Verstappen.
Charles Leclerc has got past Lewis Hamilton, has moved up into 9th place. Oscar Piastri has got past Esteban Ocon and up into 12th. And he's getting very keen, George Russell, on the back here of Max Verstappen.
Yeah, so Verstappen doesn't have the advantage now of the softer tyre, of course, because they're all back onto the intermediates. They're not different slick tyres, but there's no doubt about it. That McLaren fires its tyres up quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah, we said that Piastri was past Ocon. Ocon's returned the favour and retaken that 12th place as the cars make their way then through turn 10. It's Norris, clear advantage over Verstappen. Karoom, down to you.
Yeah, Piastri actually passed Ocon before the line, Crofty, so you have to give the place back.
All right, thank you very much. And this was the Ferrari swapping places. Lewis Hamilton once again getting a bit compromised going into turn 1, this time behind the Alpine, and Charles Leclerc picking up that one and just brushing the front wing as he moved past and up into 9th place.
It's a little welcome to Ferrari, wasn't it, from Charles to Lewis on that one. But there's Antonelli. He's will they put the DRS back on
just
in these conditions? Probably in a lap or two. I suspect we'll see it before the end of the race anyway.
They could do it now if they wanted. They haven't, but they can after just one lap. But it's nothing that we're seeing.
I wouldn't be surprised to see it next lap, actually. The DRS re-enabled when the track conditions they don't look too treacherous now, do they?
Right, now he gave the place back. He's free to attack Esteban Ocon, which Oscar Piastri has done, and he's attacked Yuki Tsunoda as well. He's up into 11th, but he's now got a bit of a gap to Lewis Hamilton to try and make up. We're watching Charles Leclerc, Hamilton's Ferrari teammate, right on the gearbox of Pierre Gasly in the Alpine and approaching the faster part of the track. Still a bit of spray coming up, you can see it there, visor full of it for Charles Leclerc, who moves to the outside. This is bravery and commitment, and they're separated by only inches as through turn 9 and into turn 10 we go. The Alpine staying ahead of Charles Leclerc, who just has to collect it a bit on the exit of the corner.
Oof, he caught a bit of grass there as well. You heard the rev spin up, but choosing to keep those tyres a little bit cooler. And wow, anybody who gets to the end of this Grand Prix has done some kind of magnificent job. My goodness. Every single line, corner, piece of tarmac's a chance to crash.
And just to make matters even more difficult for the drivers, as you can see, we've got sunshine on a rainy day now. I hope they've got a bit of a tinted visor at some point on their crash helmet. They probably haven't, because that sun in the final couple of corners is not the best angle.
I'd like to see Antonelli.
Oh, there goes Gasly, and Charles Leclerc is going to say thank you very much and take a place. Eventually, he's going to have to drag this one out down towards turn 3. Hamilton goes around the outside of the Alpine. 2 Ferraris make up a place in one corner.
Antonelli is getting pretty feisty behind Albon as well for 4th and 5th. I wonder if he might have had a chance down into turn 3. We weren't watching him, but we were watching the Ferraris getting the job done.
Oscar Piastri on the fringes of the points. We can see Antonelli now as he makes his way through that fast section towards turn 9. Piastri right on the tail of Gasly and trying to get back into the points. He had 18 of them in the bag before the rain came. Pulls out to the right-hand side of Gasly. Is there enough of this straight for him to nose ahead just at the apex? Gasly is still ahead, and Piastri will have to tuck in behind. DRS is now enabled. So next lap through the detection points, you can get yourself to within a second and then get the benefits.
Yeah, I think Oscar would have been better just keeping it neat and tidy through 9 and 10 there and having a go into 11. But anyway, he's still in position, but he's still out of the World Championship points at the moment.
And his teammate is on course for 25 of them. He leads by 1.5 seconds from Max Verstappen. Here comes Kimi Antonelli right on the back of Alex Albon, almost shoving the Williams through turn 2. What a battle this is. And Antonelli is not going to need a second opportunity to try and make a move, but he needs a couple more car lengths to try and make that move stick. Still Piastri on the tail of Pierre Gasly. He's a little bit closer. He's going to go for it. Dive down the inside into turn 3. Piastri at least is going to pick up a point today, but this is going to be a bitter, bitter disappointment in his home Grand Prix.
Absolutely. Norris would normally have got an extra point because he's got the fastest lap that nobody's going to beat from here on in, but that doesn't happen anymore.
And through we see into turn 1, the trip onto the grass and through the puddles that has cost Pierre Gasly 3 places and has taken him out of the points, and that, on a day where his teammate crashed, that is also massive disappointment for Alpine in their fight in the midfield. It's been a day of learning for Lewis Hamilton, but his instincts still very keen, and if he sees a gap, it's there for him, and he moves up into 9th place. So Max has got DRS on Lando Norris here.
Yes.
Down the main straight we go to start lap 56. 2 laps to go here, and this is a battle all the way to the finish between the 2 drivers that most people, the smart money is on to be the big championship challengers for this year. They were last year, but Lando's and McLaren starts gave him a bit of an uphill task to try and get back on terms with Max when Red Bull started to lose their way. Here in the rain, the great equaliser, Verstappen's been on his tail.
Verstappen has DRS. The pace is in the car. Do not overpush it.
Keep calm. Was Verstappen sliding his way through turn 7 and onto the curb.
It's so close into the final lap, isn't it? Verstappen's obviously thrown caution to the wind in these last couple of laps and just really taking it now to Lando Norris.
And he's going to try, is he? No, not into 9 and 10, but he's got DRS once again. Lando needs a good exit, needs to keep calm, and needs to make his way steadily towards turn 11 and keep a few car lengths in between himself and the Red Bull, which he does to preserve that lead. Meanwhile, Kimi Antonelli from 4th has been noted for an unsafe release. Is there a penalty coming his way to ruin his debut day? And what a debut day it's been for him, and he's coped absolutely brilliantly with the conditions so far. Lando Norris has coped with everything that the rain and the track and the drivers have had to throw at him, and he starts his final lap. And Max Verstappen starts his final lap, and the two cars out in front are separated by half a second with 3 miles to go.
The back end of the Red Bull a little bit squirrely through turn 1 and 2. Dropped him away a little bit. Sage advice to Lando Norris from his pit wall there of like, don't make a mistake, you're fast enough anyway. Don't overdrive it, and that's exactly how he is at the moment.
He said, didn't he, Lando Norris, I learned a lot last year. I know what I need to do to beat Max Verstappen, and I'm sure keeping calm in the pressure cooker situation of leading a race with half a lap to go and Max on your tail was very much on his shopping list and things to tick off, and so far it's looking so good for Lando Norris. He has got another overtaking opportunity here to survive, and he does. Verstappen is there, and he is close by, and he's going to be pushing and using everything at his disposal to try and make a move down into turn 11. Norris in the lead, DRS slam shot on Verstappen's Red Bull. It's a 5-second penalty for Kimi Antonelli. That's going to cost him at least 1 place at the end of this race, because he's got past Alex Albon and up into 4th. But out in front, Lando Norris now sees the crowd standing for him. The Australian Grand Prix is going to be win number 1 in 2025 for Lando Norris. He picks up where he left off in Abu Dhabi. Norris wins, Verstappen second. What a thrilling race. George Russell comes home to finish on the podium ahead of his teammate Kimi Antonelli. Antonelli gets a 5-second penalty and will be classified behind Alex Albon. Lance Stroll picks up a really handy 6th place for Aston Martin. Hulkenberg a very handy 7th for Sauber. Disappointment for Ferrari, who gambled and it didn't pay off in the rain. Leclerc 8th. Piastri, who was in 2nd for so long in this race, finishes 9th ahead of Lewis Hamilton in 10th on his Ferrari debut.
Yeah, Piastri passed Hamilton on the last lap. That is one of the all-time great Formula One drives from Lando Norris there, in the most challenging conditions, the restarts, and you know, it's so much pressure.
What a mate, what a P1, great job.
Oof. A little bit of pressure. Well done, boys. Beautifully handled. Executed to the second, 1 second later, and we were done. So well done, everyone. Congrats. Amazing way to start the year. Thank you so much.
And I don't disagree with you for a minute, Martin Brundle. That was a brilliant drive by Lando Norris today. But he went off at turn 11 with the rain coming down, and it could so easily have ended the same way that it did for his teammate Oscar Piastri. Somehow he kept it.
Yeah, he didn't go as
less
far
onto
off
the
in the
grass,
first part, and so when he came back on, he was at a different angle to Piastri. Piastri passed Lewis Hamilton around the outside of turn 9. Watch this. Here we go. He's got the DRS, ducks to the right. Lewis tries to squeeze him to the wall. Piastri's having none of that.
Nice.
Lewis won't enjoy watching that.
That was very nice indeed. What a race, and what a breathless finish to this race as well. You know, never over till it's over. I mean, the rain wrecked a few racers' race out there.
So Antonelli had passed Albon, hadn't he, for
Yes, he had.
4th on the road, and that 5-second penalty cost him the place back for the unsafe release in the pit stop. Sadly for him, but still a tremendous drive from Antonelli in 5th, Albon 2. Nico Hulkenberg, he did go fast and not crash, as we talked about on the grid, in for 7th, and that'll be probably some well, very welcome and slightly surprising point for that team.
Well, quite. We didn't mention George Russell much during the course of the race.
He didn't do it.
But he kept himself handy and he was there right at the end, and that is George Russell's best ever result in a season opening race, to finish third on the road. Finished third, of course, here in 2022 as well. Salesforce driver of the day. He only got 20% of the vote, Lando Norris. There are a lot of very good drives out there, but I do think that for those that voted in it, that was a deserving win for 2 trophies for Lando Norris today.
Well, people will vote as they want to vote. I would definitely have voted for Lando in that race as driver of the day, but that's the beauty of it, isn't it? People have got different opinions, but you know, I'm sure a lot of people were thinking of Antonelli as a rookie up there in P5 and what have you. So,
you'll remember, Martin, the 2022 Spanish Grand Prix where Max Verstappen took over the lead of the Drivers' Championship. It's a lead he's held ever since, until this moment. Lando Norris emerges from the cockpit of his McLaren, leading a Formula One championship for the first time in his career. Max is smiling as he shakes hands with the McLaren driver, and I think that's a significant statement to make at the start of this season, and one that Lando needed to make, winning a battle against Max to take that championship lead.
In these conditions, Max's conditions, and remember, I mean, the McLaren looked undrivable back in Brazil, didn't it, on that rainy day?
It did.
But the calmness with which Lando handled all the challenges of that day. Oscar, he drove beautifully, didn't he? But so unlucky with that.
Was catching his teammate, was just over a second behind him, and then came the what do I do with the rain. If he'd have pitted a lap earlier, then he wouldn't have gone off, but he might have lost places. He would have had preferred strategy. McLaren don't do that for the guy in second place.
They were pushing so hard. That's why when they hit that rainy corner, they went off. And because that telegraphs a bit of information back to Max as well behind them.
Yeah, Max had to survive another lap on the dry tyres. Ferrari gambled and it didn't pay off, and then after inheriting the lead, Lewis Hamilton had to surrender it by pitting for the Inters, and there is the Norris family, mum and dad, here to congratulate their son. And this weekend has started exactly how he would have wanted it, in terms of pole and win, and controlling the race when he could control it and the elements weren't all fighting against him.
That's a world champion level of victory, that one, no doubt about it.
There is a long way to go this season. McLaren say that they fixed a few things on their car that held them back in the rain in Sao Paulo. So Zach Brown there and Lando's manager waiting to have a chat. And the car looked in a dominant form, especially as the track started to dry.
Yeah.
Dropped the Red Bull of Max Verstappen quite quickly.
That was classic Max, wasn't it, at the end? It's like, right, grit my teeth, I'm coming after you.
Helmut Marko smiling a bit for him. That's quite happy.
Yeah, it's a great drive. The McLaren's faster.
It is, but
but
the fact that they finished second on this day will probably be something of a bonus to Red Bull. What won't be a bonus is that they finished second with one car and the other one crashed. Anyway, Jolyon Palmer is with George Russell.
George Russell, a podium to start the year. I'm exhausted having watched the race. How do you feel having driven that one?
Yeah, it was a great race to come home in P3, and I just want to say a massive well done to Lando. It's, I think in a race like that, when you're leading, it's probably your worst nightmare, but he did a great job, and also really well done to Kimi to come back to P5, which is a really impressive first race. But for us, you know, it wasn't our strongest weekend, but to end up on the podium, super happy, and yeah, let's see what we can do next week.
I mean, that looked like some of the toughest conditions I've ever seen. A crash before the start of the race, a delayed start, crashes under safety car. How do you keep it on the island in conditions like that?
Yeah, it was good fun. It was good fun. It was. I was quite enjoying it, to be honest, because I was hoping the two guys ahead would make a mistake and I could slip through, but that just didn't seem to be the case today. But really, really tricky. But that's what F1's about, and that's made it exciting for us. And I hope everyone enjoyed it at home.
And the best start of the season the Mercedes have made since you've been at the team. Podium, you've got Kimi Antonelli, your young teammate, with you as well. It's got to be confidence boosting.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's been, all things considered, it's been a really good weekend. We know McLaren are out in front at the moment, but this was a strong result.
Well done, George. Enjoy the podium.
Cheers, everybody.
Unbelievable race. So much going on to unpick through it, but let's start with the finale. Pressuring Lando all the way, somehow through it all. It's you two at the front again, and you've just missed out this time, but brilliant job, well done.
Yeah, it was a difficult race, of course, but at the end it was fun. I mean, of course, Lando had a little moment on entry of 6, so he lost a lot of momentum there. So that's why I got close, and then I got the DRS, so I got close, but it's very hard to pass around here, but it was fun, those last laps, you know, pushing, at least, you know, when you're fighting for the win. But I'm just very happy to bring it home, score good points, and this is, let's say, a decent starting point for us.
Talk us through the call to stay out on the slicks, because that looked like a split-second decision. One McLaren was off, one pitted, and suddenly you're in the lead of the race.
Yeah, I think that was also, you know, it started to rain a bit, they went off, so it was a bit like a panic, like, oh, I need to box. So they went in. I stayed out. The first lap, honestly, I think it was all right. But then, unfortunately, yeah, the weather continued a little bit more on the other side of the track as well. And yeah, we then had to box. But I think at the end of the day, even if we would have boxed like one lap more like earlier, we would have still been P2 anyway after that stop. So I think it was worth the gamble. You know, it was quite spicy out there with the slick tires, but it was all right at the end.
Yeah, you certainly gave it your best shot. So what about the car in general moving towards China next week? Is it better than you expected to be able to fight for a win straight away?
I think it is where I expected to be. So you can see also in that first stint, you know, we were lacking a little bit of pace compared to the McLaren. But it's still 18 points more than what I had here last year. So I take that.
All right, well done, Max. Thanks for giving us a great race.
Thank you.
Lando, what an unbelievable victory. How difficult was that out there? You had so much to deal with.
I don't have a microphone. Ah, I'll steal your microphone. It was amazing, thank you. A tough race, especially with Max behind me. I was pushing, you know, it was, especially the last 2 laps, a little bit stressful, I'm not gonna lie. But amazing way to start the year. A tough one because, you know, we went off and we made some big mistakes. I went through the gravel, a lot of the damage. Just tricky conditions, but these are the ones that are enjoyable and fun and unpredictable. But this time we got it right and we ended up on top, so I'm very happy.
And what were your thoughts? You seemed so calm the whole way through the race. You had a delayed start from pole position. You had Max behind you. You had Oscar behind you. Max again at the end. And then there was this threat of rain coming under the safety car. How much is that playing on your mind when you've just got to keep it on a difficult racetrack as well? How do you keep calm? How do you keep the communication so good?
We got it wrong a lot last year, so I guess we learned from our mistakes. You know, we lost out on Silverstone and Canada through a race like this. So we've learned from our mistakes, I think. It's still only round 1 of 24, but you know, dealing with the pressure, dealing with Max, dealing with Oscar behind me, I was pushing the whole way through. You know, I could relax inside, but I wasn't relaxing from how much I was pushing. So a tough one. So to not make overly too many mistakes, to not have a mistake that cost me anything. I guess I can take a little bit of credit for that. You know, so yeah. A tough, challenging race, but I mean, for McLaren, I need to give a big thanks because they've given me an amazing car, so I have to start with them.
No one was ever going to make this one easy for you. The last laps, Max is on your tail. You have Will on the radio saying, don't over push it. You got the Red Bull just there. How do you deal with that pressure?
Yeah, I don't know. Just drive, I guess. I mean, Max was quick. You know, I knew I had like good pace, but I made one mistake in turn 6, and he got within the DRS, and the DRS around here is probably like a second or something. So that allowed him to keep staying within that second and have a couple of like little looks. And I had to check my mirror a few more times than what I would have liked, but I stayed calm and I kept it together and I listened to Will, so that's the most important thing.
And it's just race 1. You're now the championship leader. You have the car that put it on the front row with a lockout with Oscar Piastri as well. And you won the race with everything that's thrown at you. This must be a confidence booster ahead of the whole year.
You would hope so, yeah. It is. It has been. My weekend's been amazing, you know, from the get-go, from FP1, FP2, FP3, quali, and now the race. So it's not easy to put a weekend together like this, especially when I got a lot of pressure from Max and from Oscar, because they're hungry and they're competitive and they want it just as badly. So stressful, but I know what I'm capable of. I know what I can do. But like you said, it's just round 1, so we need to go and do it again next weekend and then continue from there. So a long season ahead. We just got to keep our head down and keep pushing.
All right, Lando, stunning victory. Go and enjoy the celebration. Well done.
Well, he's right to keep his feet firmly on the ground. It is a long season ahead. There'll be plenty more twists and turns to come from here, but the confidence that he will gain from this victory, I'm sure will stand him in good stead when we all congregate in Shanghai in a few days' time.
Yeah, we've got another race, haven't we? 7 days from now.
So Jackie Stewart waiting to offer congratulations. Stefano Domenicali said, come on, you've got a podium to go on to.
Yeah. That's another track that could well give us a bit of a hit and miss wet-dry race, isn't it, in Shanghai next weekend?
Certainly could. Best ever start, as we said, to an opening race of the season for George Russell, his teammates Kimi Antonelli. Not just the 69th driver to score on an F1 debut, but the second youngest point scorer as well in F1 history, behind Max Verstappen. He's 18 years and 203 days old, is Kimi Antonelli. He's got 2 more races to become the youngest ever winner, should he see fit.
Rob Marshall moved over from Red Bull. And clearly took a lot of great ideas with him. A very long-standing Formula 1 technical man, Rob, most highly rated.
And worked so well with Peter Prodromou, the head of Aero as well, as and his contract extended. They've shored up their technical side. They've got their drivers locked into long-term contracts as well. Let's have a listen in the cool-down room to the top 3.
Big run on me when I messed up in 6. Yeah, I could split. Honestly, you were only like this much to the left. It was not even like a lot. Really? Yeah, you weren't like really wide. But then like DRS, I think DRS with the inserts. But that run I didn't have DRS because you were. No, but then the next lap you had it. It's big. It's big. Alex remember 7 times like no. Yeah. It's so hard to pass around. Yeah, like with kinks as well. Like unless you're in severe trouble. I don't think people realize how easy it is just to do that. Yeah, for sure. Especially with how like tandem water goes in, you can't see the ground. I mean, you're not like experienced with it. Carlos. Oh no. Outside front. What did you struggle with after this? Well, I was already struggling at that point. It just got worse. Oscar's quick at this stage, man. It's just. I saw it. Yeah. Oh. That's not me. That was Oscar. Yeah, Oscar. That was. Well. Both of you did it. I went so quick off. Yeah. Yeah, I went through a. Straight off. I look in the mirror. Yeah. I'm kind of hoping everyone else has gone off with me. Yeah, but like he comes on now. Like straight. Oh my. Alright, Oh, great. What? I think he crashed with Laws. No. I think Lawson crashed with him.
Well, the drivers have an awful lot to debrief about and lots to talk about. Just picking up on Max's post-race interview there. 21.7 seconds ahead of Lando Norris when Norris was on the Inter and Max could have pitted. So I just, if it had changed a lap earlier, could Max have won this
Yes,
today?
I think he could have, but you know, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Everybody's trying to second guess that weather. And they were making that extra stay out lap. I mean, it could have, it's hero zero stuff,
Yeah,
isn't it? It could look genius or it can look a bit silly, and you know, it cost Ferrari, didn't it? Lewis Hamilton was leading the race and ends up finishing 10th because momentarily it looked clever, but long term it wasn't.
George Russell steps out onto the podium. You'll notice some new Pirelli caps for this year. One thing that hasn't changed about this podium is that the Sir Jack Brabham Cooper steering wheel is still the trophy for the Australian Grand Prix. One thing that hasn't changed is that Max Verstappen is still finding his way onto the podium, and Lando Norris, who won in Abu Dhabi to end the season, is our winner here today as well. But in a moment they're going to spray some champagne. Champagne is back on the podium. Smiles for Lando Norris, who in the showers in Melbourne has ended Max Verstappen's reign at the top of the Drivers' Championship and takes home one of the trophies of this season.
Great trophy that is, isn't it? Look at that. Beautiful. Drivers don't get to keep them. They'll get replicas for the drivers and they'll go in the showroom to McLaren Technology Centre, the real one.
Yes, as the staff will walk to the canteen, they walk past the trophy cabinet, which is great inspiration, I think, to go back to their desks and carry on working. Rob Marshall, as you said, going up onto the podium to receive the Constructors' Trophy.
Mind you, I do know of one replica that's in there. That's my second place in Monaco because I've got the real one.
Really?
Yep.
Did you ever tell Ron before now?
No.
The secret is out, there's nothing you can do about it. McLaren only 2 points ahead of Mercedes. They had a very fine day with Russell and Antonelli scoring good points between them. Red Bull with a second place, probably better than they might have expected after the first day of running in Australia. George Russell on the podium here is his teammate Kimi Antonelli, who can be well impressed and pleased with his debut. Watch is on. It's champagne time in Formula One, and Lando Norris receives that from his peers on the podium. We are off and running in 2025, and it's Lando Norris slamming the bubbly on the floor, who's gone and taken our first win.
Well, how about that for a start to Formula One in 2025? Absolutely epic, a classic race that it had, something for everyone. But you have to take your hat off to Lando Norris under an enormous amount of pressure from Max Verstappen, who we know is just so good in the rain. He showed that he's got the mettle to have a fight on track and perhaps, who knows, a fight for the championship. But it has all the hallmarks, this, of being a really good season. When they did get out in front, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, early on, they showed a clean pair of heels to Max Verstappen. Signs of real confidence for them as the heavens open here. And Lando Norris drinks it all in. Next up for us, round 2, and China.
battle lines have been drawn.
All right, well, a good ride today. Considering we've had a few days off, I think that's good. Kind of let the body let the body heal up a little bit. Even though I did do 2 parades, marched with a 30-pound drum on. So we still did a little workout.